If we did a contest to see who was in more pain and who had a worse life and who had things more uncomfortable than the other person, do you want to know who would win? I'll tell you. The answer is yes. Here's the truth. Neither of us has it worse. And I have been thinking about this nonstop because I get a lot of comments from people on various videos, maybe like on my cleaning or organizing videos, saying, oh my gosh, well, I could never do that. I'm way too sick for that. Or, wow, I am amazed that you can do X, Y, or Z because I could never do that. My pain is so much worse. My pain is so much harder. And sometimes it's very light and it's just people saying like, oh, I wish I could do that. And sometimes it's people almost making a competition of like, well, listen, my life is way harder. My life is more painful. My life is more uncomfortable. I've been dealt a worse hand of cards than you. And maybe that's true. But how do we know? Tell me how we know whose life is worse. I recently started a community of people who live chronically ill. It's incredible. I've been thinking about how everybody in there is at a different level. There are some people who are working. There are some people who are bedbound and everything in between, and people hospitalized, and people who applied to the program and then emailed me later saying, never mind, I can't do it because I'm in the hospital and I don't know when I'll get out. By the way, you can still do it if you're in the hospital, just so you know. There are live calls if you want to come. You can always watch the replays later. You can jump on once a month and see everything you missed. You can come hang out with us every day. There's options for everyone. It's a community for people who live chronically ill. So there's options, just so you know. If you want to join the community and you're wondering if it's too much, you can do all of it. You can do a little bit. You can watch replays. You can come live. There's so many options. I made it that way intentionally for you. You're welcome. Anyway, I've been thinking about this idea that we are sometimes in a competition with people who live chronically ill. I notice myself doing this when I watch friends who live chronically ill and I see them go on trips to Hawaii or taking their kids to Disneyland or just doing big projects at home that are really messy that they'd have to clean up after. That sounds like way too much work for me. And I either beat myself up and think, why is my life so much harder than theirs? Or I think maybe sometimes, if I'm being honest, negatively of them. I think, oh, are they exaggerating their pain? They're not in as much pain as they say they are, or whatever. And I also notice this on the other end of people telling me, Aimee, I have it so much worse than you. I say, I get migraines a lot, and someone says, well, I get them every day. And I've had experiences in person with people trying to one-up me when it comes to chronic illness. I've had experiences online, many experiences online, and I've realized that it's stupid, okay? I'm just gonna say it. We need to stop doing this. And sometimes we just do it kind of in our heads, but we need to stop doing this out loud. Now, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Like, I'm fine. You can comment on my videos. You can tell me it's worse for you or whatever. Like, it's okay. It's not like my feelings are hurt. But I just wanted to talk about this topic. Here's a few things I want you to think about. First of all, there are so many levels of pain, and there's so many levels of tolerance for pain. So if it was possible for me to know exactly how much pain you are in and be able to feel that while you are feeling the exact same pain, we still might have a different experience. We still would have a different experience. Some people can tolerate more pain than others. And who knows? I don't know how much pain I can tolerate. I've told people before that I'm a wimp when it comes to pain. And yet I'm in pain all the time. And so other people tell me like, oh, you're so strong. You can handle so much pain. Your tolerance is so high. And I look at myself like, no, my tolerance is low. I'm always trying to get rid of it. I'm looking for things to take it away all the time. And then I have other people tell me that my tolerance is high. So what even does that mean? I don't know if I have a higher tolerance of pain than you, or you have a higher tolerance than me. I also don't know if you're in more pain than me or I'm in more pain than you. there's also so many other factors that go into it. There's the emotional aspect, because there are people who are maybe in less physical pain, but they're in way more emotional pain than I am. And it makes it overall feel more painful. And there are people who are not very emotional about their pain, but they are in a lot of physical pain, and maybe they can tolerate it, or maybe it just doesn't bother them as much because they don't have this emotional aspect of it. When for me, there's an emotional aspect from living chronically ill for so long. There's the frustration and the anger about it and the confusion and the impatience. There's so many things that go along with it, and there's literally no way to tell. And some days I can handle it better than others. Sometimes I will record a video of me deep cleaning my house when I was in a lot of pain and I probably should have laid down, and then you don't see me crashing for 4 days after that. Other days, I might do a video of me laying around a lot, and then you don't see me doing a bunch of stuff later because I got more energy. Or maybe I just get hyper focused on something and I'm really excited about some project that I don't even care how sick I am. I'm just going to do it. That happens too, right? Like, there's so many things that you just don't know that someone is going through. And there's so many things that other people, if they make comments to you, they don't know what it's like to live in your shoes. My husband will tell me all the time, Aimee, you need to rest. You shouldn't do this project or this thing. And he doesn't understand that there's a part of me that enjoys doing things, getting things done, regardless of how much pain I'm in. There's a part of me that would feel better getting up and being in more pain than laying down and maybe making my pain less severe. That's also true. Like, there's just so many things. Why do we compare? Because the truth is, there is no comparison. It's literally impossible to compare my pain to your pain, or my uncomfortable symptoms to yours, or my trauma to your trauma, or my emotional stress to your emotional stress. Like, there's too much, and it's impossible for you to feel what I feel. And it's possible for me to feel what you feel. And it's impossible for me to know why some of my chronically ill friends travel the world and how they do it. And I don't know what's going on in their brains. I don't know if it's an emotional stress relief for them. That sounded weird. I don't know if it's an emotional stress relief for them to go travel and it is worth the extra pain that they feel, or maybe it makes them feel less pain because part of their pain is, in anxiety, and they feel more physical pain when they're anxious, and when they go out and travel, they actually feel better. I don't know. But what I do know is that there's no comparison. I think it's hard not to compare your chronically ill life to someone who is healthy, right? It's hard not to wish that you had their life or they have the life that you wanted. But I think it's even harder not to compare your chronically ill life with another chronically ill person's life. Because we think, oh, they're chronically ill, or maybe they have the same condition as me, or whatever, and they're doing these things and I'm not, and we can feel down for that. And there's one more, which is comparing yourself to yourself, which is like a few years ago, maybe I was in less pain or maybe I was in more pain, and we're comparing ourselves to how we used to be, and oh, we used to get this much done in our pain and now we're not. Well, guess what? We are in a different emotional headspace. We're in a different physical space. There's no comparison. Like, all we can compare to is like right now. What do we want to do? What matters to us? What are we going to focus on? When we are constantly comparing ourselves to other people, we're only going to feel worse. So I want to talk about what to do. So there's two scenarios. There's one scenario when someone belittles your chronic illness, and then there's the scenario when you are belittling someone else's chronic illness. So let's start with other people commenting on your illness. So I had an example where I said, I get migraines a lot, and the person I was talking to said, oh, well, I get them every day. Every single day I get migraines. And even though I could come back to them and say, well, I get them every day too, or at least I used to get them every day, and I've found these things to help, but I understand what it's like to get them every day. Instead of doing that, that just creates a battle, because here's the truth. Some people just want to fight. Some people just want to one-up you. They want to win the battle, which is funny because sometimes there's a battle on who has it worse. There's a one-upping, but I don't know if you want to call it one downing. Is that a thing? Where you are trying to show that your life is harder than someone else's. So when someone belittles your pain, there's a couple options. If you have more, leave them in the comments below. We'd love to hear them. But what came to my mind was first ignoring it. And this is what I tend to do with comments on YouTube or even with people in real life. This is kind of my go-to. I just think it's easier for me to just ignore it. And that doesn't mean I ignore them. I just ignore the challenge, right? So I remind myself that they don't get it. They don't know what I'm going through. And they might be right. And they might be wrong. But there's no way to tell. And me fighting them and even trying to tell them that may not go anywhere. It may not go well. And there's no competition. And so I just remind myself, like, they don't know what I'm going through. Okay. Well, I respond with, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. That sounds really hard. That's typically, what I would respond on YouTube if I got a YouTube comment of someone saying that they had it worse than me. I'm just like, I'm so sorry. Because honestly, that's probably what they want. That's what I want when I am telling people. I'm like, just tell me that you're sorry, that it sucks. And sometimes that's all I need is just someone to say, like, yeah, your life sucks, Aimee. And it validates me. There is something really amazing about someone validating your feelings, because your feelings are real and your pain is real and you do have it hard, right? So that's typically my response, is ignore it in my head, but respond with, I'm so sorry, that sounds really hard. And I don't bring up my own stuff again. I really don't. I just find that seems to be the best to, for myself to get through it and not feel like I'm, my feelings aren't valid. Is like, okay, they don't get it, and that's okay, but their feelings are also valid. So I'm just going to, in my mind, ignore it, that it's not a competition, and say, I'm so sorry that you're feeling that way. Another thing is you could remind them that it's not a competition. Now, I'm personally not like I don't know, I'm more of a passive person, you could say. So I don't really like confrontations. But if you are more, aggressive, assertive, if you're more assertive than me, then maybe this is the approach you would want to take, which is to say, like, it's actually not a competition. I'm having a really hard time in these ways, and I'm so sorry that you are struggling. I'm struggling too. It's just different. Like, I think that's a really good response. I'm also struggling, but it's different than what you're going through. Even if it's the same symptoms, even if it is, like, let's use the example of, I get migraines a few times a week, and someone says, well, I get them every day. You say, I'm so sorry. That is so hard. I'm going through really hard things too with my migraines. It's just different than yours. Because it is, right? We both have valid feelings. And let's be honest, if you're getting migraines every day, you're probably complaining about it, you're struggling, you're having a hard time with it. If you're getting migraines multiple times a week, you're probably complaining about it, you're hurting, you're struggling. If you're getting migraines once a month, you're probably complaining about it, you're hurting, you're struggling. What's interesting is if you go from getting migraines every day to getting them once a month, you are so happy, you're excited. That was kind of my story. I'm like, I was getting them all the time. Then all of a sudden, I found some stuff to help. I have videos on it. Anyway, story for another day. But now I only get them bad, once a month, twice a month. And it's just like this huge improvement. I'm excited about it. It's a good thing. Yet someone who's never had migraines and all of a sudden they get 2 migraines a month, it's a terrible thing. They're struggling. They're frustrated. They're confused about why it's happening. They're not excited that they only have 2 a month, like I am when I've gone from, every day to 2 a month. So that's another thing. You just have to remember that, like, whatever pain someone's in is still hard. And if your pain was different, it would still be hard for you, just like it's hard for them. The other thing that can happen is if you feel like you have it worse than someone else. And if a conversation comes up and somebody is, maybe they're complaining about how sick they are, but they're still working full time and you can't work, you're too sick to work. It doesn't need to be a competition still. Now, first option, again, ignore it. Ignore it in your head. Say, I'm so sorry, that's so hard. Don't even talk about yourself. It's an option. Even if you think, well, I have it worse than them, they can work and I can't, and we're both chronically ill, but clearly they're less chronically ill because they can work, you don't need to talk about yourself. it's hard sometimes, especially when it does feel like you're talking to someone, and I've had experiences with this where I'm talking to someone and I've told them about my illnesses before, and then they bring up things that they're going through that are, in my mind, like way more minor than what I am, and they're complaining about it and talking about how hard it is, and it's hard not to go in my head of like, how do they not notice that I have it so much harder? How do they not even bring up my illness in this? And you want to know why? Because we're all thinking about ourselves. I'm thinking about me, they're thinking about them. That's just how the world is. Like, it really is. It's really hard to think about other people. We think that we think about other people a lot. We really don't as much as we think we do. And there are people who are very good at thinking about other people, but I think the majority are in their own heads. I'm in my own head most of the time. And I'm thinking about me, and they're thinking about them. And so it might come across as, oh, they're just trying to belittle my pain. Or it could be that they literally didn't even think about it. Not in the way of like they don't care about you, but in the way of it just didn't cross their mind. They love you and they care about you and they want the best for you, but also their pain is still pain and their struggle is still struggle, and it's difficult. So my first piece of advice is to try your hardest to not talk about yourself. In your brain, remind yourself they don't get it, they don't know, they're thinking about themselves, which is fine, because that's what I would do in that situation too. I likely would feel the same way. If I didn't live chronically ill and then maybe I got a temporary illness, yeah, I probably would complain about it as if it lasted forever, even though mine does actually last forever where I am. If it was the other way around, we probably would still be complaining. And I know it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see someone with a temporary illness complain that it's lasting forever when yours actually does last forever. But their feelings are valid. You know, sometimes we don't want them to be. Of course, there's a million other options than this, but another one would be to just say, I'm so sorry you're struggling. I'm having a really hard time too. Maybe we can just cry together about these hard things we're going through. But I highly recommend not comparing. I highly recommend not bringing up how your illness is different than theirs or how yours is worse than theirs, because again, it's just, there's no competition. There's not. All right, my friends, those are my thoughts for today. Hope you enjoyed them. If you want to join my community, there's a link down below to learn all about it. And if the doors are open, we'd love to have you in there. I will see you on the next video. Bye, my friends.